course. This is the list of all the things which I'm going to cover in my course. And before discussing about our technical things about SOAP UI, I'll firstly discuss some of the frequently asked questions which people generally ask me before moving on to the course, or which people
What if
ask me
you don't
within
have
the
any Java
within our training
experience
of 1 hour.
or any like
Okay,
programming
so
language
what will be the course
experience?
duration? The total course duration will be 25 to 30 hours, approx
Mm-hmm.
6 weeks. I'll take to complete our
Mm-hmm.
SOAP UI, which is present in our complete course. And what all will
Okay.
be covered? See, I'll start, maybe these are some
Mm-hmm.
technical terms which I'll discuss, but maybe you know,
I
or maybe you don't know.
I am
But just
completely into
for
like
your
database
knowledge, that I'll
section.
start
I
I'll
don't have
start
any
from the
like
manual, then I'll move on to the
background of
automation, and automation can be done with the
C,
help
C++,
of
or
Groovy.
Java
Groovy
knowledge.
is nothing but one of the scripting language which I'm going to use.
Mm-hmm.
And REST is something we have within SOAP UI. We have SOAP, we have REST within our web services
Okay.
testing, within our web API testing. We have REST, we have
Mm-hmm.
SOAP UI. These are some of the jargons present within our
Okay.
testing. So I'll work on REST mainly. 95% of my course is based on REST. Okay, as I said,
Okay.
SOAP and
Okay.
REST, we have two things, and I'll work on REST. And framework which I'm going to cover is data driven framework. I'll tell
Yeah.
you what is framework, what is data driven
Yeah.
framework, variety
Mm-hmm.
of frameworks, but I'll work
Okay,
on
yeah,
data driven
because it's
framework.
not like a
Okay,
very
next
conditional
is it
statements or
necessary to
anything
learn
that
Groovy?
maybe we can
Absolutely yes,
correlate.
we need Groovy
Only thing is
to
like how,
automate our
what are the
testing. If
methods,
I'm
what are
working on
classes,
my
that will
any of
be
the
little
web
different.
service or any of the web API, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to do testing, Groovy is the language. See, as I said, with the help
Okay,
of Groovy, I'm going to
okay,
automate my test
okay,
cases, the complete scenario. Fine. So Groovy is the very
okay,
important. And one more thing, if I'm working on Groovy, as I said, I'm going to work on Groovy. I'll not say you need to learn it separately. I'll teach each and everything which you need to know for automation with the help of Groovy. Okay? Next, will we work on our project? Yes, I'm going to work on my retail application. Yeah, I know it's very tough to implement any of the web service and to test it, because this is something which we can't change of any of our website. If I say I want to change something, if I want to have the web API of that, it's very tough, but I am going to work. Okay, and retail is my application which is created by our company, and I'm going to work on that. Okay, I'll build end-to-end test cases. I'm going to automate, and yes, reporting. 60% of our course is based on reporting only. If I'm going to work on my framework without the help of reporting, without generating the reporting, framework is incomplete. So reporting we'll do, and a variety of reports will generate. Okay, and will we cover SOAP? As I said, two terms, SOAP and REST. Okay, and SOAP, a very little part of SOAP I'll cover. And the reason for not covering SOAP is it is not at all used. 99% of the cases in from for me as well, like the companies which approaches at and the clients which we have is based on REST only, not on SOAP. Okay, so this is the reason REST is very famous, very useful, very helpful. SOAP is not as much famous, and it's not as much good to work with SOAP. So I'll just give you the introduction. I'll just tell you how to work, but mainly I'll work on REST. Okay, and will we cover free as well as the paid version? Yeah, we have two versions of SOAP. You have free version and the paid version, the pro version, and I'll work on both. And will we get the link to recorded session every day? Yes. See, I'm going to record each and every session, and you will get the link of daily recordings, and you will get the batch ID with the help of which you can listen all the days recordings. Okay, can we rejoin the live session after completing the current session? Yes, you can join the next session as well. If some of the topics are not clear to you, or you want to rejoin, you can join. Just approach us. Okay, will you help us in preparing resume? Yeah, surely I'll help you. And one more thing, mm, all the things which I'm going to cover, you can mention all these things within your resume, and you can even mention that you have experience in doing all these things. Only the thing is you need to practice. Okay, do we need to learn Groovy itself? No, as I said, the things which I'll cover is more than enough to know. And prerequisite of our course, only the any of the programming language concepts, like if you know C, if you know C++, if you know Java, then it is more than enough to enter in our course. Like, you only the concepts, as I said, conditional statements, looping statements, how static keyword is coming. Yeah, surely I'll tell you how I'm using, but the basics you must know. When I'm going to implement the static keyword, I'll tell you how it works. Okay, and it will help you a lot. These are the questions. Any other question if you have other than our course, see, you can ask me now. Any question? And one more thing, I'll share this complete course, the content. See, it's approx 30 days course which I have created. It may also vary. And day 1, day 2, all the things are listed, all the topics which I'm going to cover. Any doubt? Any other doubt? Yeah. Okay. Okay. If you don't have any of the programming language knowledge, okay. See, as I said, when I'll discuss about static keyword, I'll tell you how static I'm using. Okay, just a statement for that I'll tell you. How if statement is coming, I'll tell you how if statement, but I'll not go in as much detail. Okay, you are in which of the programming language? C, C++, Java, .NET, which language? Okay. Okay, see, if the Groovy is the language which I said I'm going to use within our testing of to automate, so I'll say that 10% of the things will come from Java, or Java I'm saying, you can also say C, C++. Fine, and 90% of the things are the only coming from Groovy. And Groovy, I'll tell you how it works, I'll teach you. Only 10% of the knowledge you do need from any of the language, if it is C, if it is C++, and not only language, just a syntax statements, like you must know how conditional statement works, how looping statement works. This is only the condition. Okay, and don't think everything is going to come from Java. It's a complete Java. No, only the basics of Java, and the rest thing like package, how package comes, how static keyword works, how functions calling works. These all things I'll tell you when we'll work. Okay. Yeah, surely, sure, you'll able to relate. Yeah. Okay, about methods and classes. Okay, no, we'll discuss about that thing, because Groovy have its own classes, its own methods. So don't think like it is going to come from Java. We'll work on Groovy separately, and 90% of Groovy is a completely Groovy only. Not it will not come from Java. It will not come from C or C++. Okay. Yeah, and I have many more questions. See, I have listed many more questions, and I'll share this complete sheet. You can go through the questions, you can go through the answers. If you have any other question, then you can ask me. Okay, now I'll start moving on my course. Let's start with very first topic. What is a web service? What is a web service and why I'm going to discuss about web service, how it is related to our training. All these things we'll cover. So this is our first day of SOAPUI training, and these all are the terms with which you generally like SOAPUI training, web service training, web API training, REST JSON training, functional testing. So everything we'll discuss. So very first topic for the day one is what is a web service. So let's start. What is a web service? See, service is what? Service is any kind of help which I'm getting from the web. Web means from the internet. If I say web service is the service offered by any of the electronic device, what do you mean by electronic device? It can be your laptop, it can be your mobile, it can be your PC, which is available. Only this is the condition. Service offered on the web is my web service. Okay. If I say this is my one of the website which is offering us some services, then I could say that it is what? It is one of the web. Amazon is one of the website, but on the back end, web API is working, web service is working. Okay, we'll discuss about that. This is something with which user is going to interact. So all the users are taking the help of the web service, are getting the service of that website. So I'll say that this is one of the web service. Okay. Then what is the where we use web service? What do you think? where we can use the web service. This is a very simple thing, and I'll tell you in a very simple term. See, I'm going to discuss in very simple terms so that you can relate it with your the things, the terms with which you generally interact daily. Okay, what where we use web service? We generally use the communication is happens daily within us. If I say this is my one of the application which is working on Java and other application is working on PHP, is this possible? Yeah, this is possible. Maybe one of my mobile device is working on Java, maybe it is on Android, and other of your application or other of your mobile device is working on it's working on iOS, it's iOS device. So both are going to communicate. And communication means what? Communication means one of the application is going to send the request and other application is going to send back the response. On the basis of that only I could say that they both are communicating, right? So now read the definition. What where we use web service? It's a way to communicate between two different applications. The things which I just said, two mobile devices, these are two devices. Now what do you mean by different applications? Let me explain you with a very simple example. If I say I'm working on my application which is based on Java, or let's say for a different platforms, if I say my first application is working on a Windows system and the application which is working, it's based on Java application and Windows platform, and my other application is maybe working on PHP application. PHP application means the GUI with which user is going to interact, and maybe it is a Linux. The platform which I'm using is Linux. And surely there might be a case that they both wants to communicate. Communication here means what? Communication means from first application to second application I'm going to send the request, and from the second application I'm going to get back the response. This is something which I'll say that it is request, and from the other end I'm going to get back the response. Okay, so both are if transferring some messages, if one application is sending one message and other application is sending back some message, then the term which I could use as request and response. Okay, and here application means what? Application means on which user works. Platform means on which, with the help of which user interacts with this application. Fine, the same thing for this as well. Linux is my platform and PHP is my application. So both are communicating, means both are sending some messages, exchanging some messages. So this is nothing but my one of the location, one of the place where I could use web service. See, again I'll say I'm not discussing exactly about the web service. These are just the introduction about the web service which you can refer if you are working very first time. And how web services works? We are done with the like if it is my Amazon user are interacting, I said on the back end somewhere web service will work. And user if send request, what does it means? It means that from the first user I'm sending the request, and from the second user I'm getting back the response. Fine, request response is now present. Now the thing is where my web service, how it works, how this request and responses are transferring, how this communication is done. Now this is the thing. Request I'm sending, response I'm getting back. But how this messages, how the from the first application messages transfer to the second application, and how from the second message comes from the first comes back to the first application. SOAP and REST, XML and JSON, these are the terms which are used within the SOAP UI, within the web services. SOAP, as I said, these are the technical terms, maybe you don't know about them. SOAP, REST, XML, JSON, and many more also comes. HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, SMTP, Many terms will come within that. These are the jargons present within my web service. Now the thing is, this is my technical statement for that. How web service work? Now read the statement. Web service is a collection of open protocols and standards. Now what are these protocols? What are these standards? Protocols and standard means some SOAP, REST, XML, JSON. These comes under standard. Some of the terms used for exchanging data between different applications or systems. Now this is the important thing. Only just to explain this line, I explained two more things. Very first thing is, from one side you are getting some of the help, some of the service, and in the second slide I explain you request and response, how getting exchanged. Now this is the thing. Web service is nothing but a collection of open protocols, open standards. Open protocols means what? Which are freely available. Okay, SOAP, REST. Standard means some of the terms like XML and JSON. I'll tell you what is XML, what is JSON. But the thing is, behind the scenes only these terms actually works. SOAP, REST, XML, JSON, and many more things. Okay, it's something which is working behind the scenes, and we are going to work on that. Okay, now see examples on a web service. Don't firstly we'll discuss about these examples and I'll come back to this line. What is this? Makemytrip.com, facebook.com, Gmail, Amazon. These all are what? SOAPUI tutorials, ETL testing tutorial, QTP Selenium, redbus.com. Yeah, these all are my websites, right? These all are my websites. But we are here for web services. Now what is a web service? This is the thing. What is a web service? If I say, let's discuss about, let's say if it is about makemytrip.com or any of the website you can pick. Makemytrip.com. This is something with which user is going to interact, right? Am I right? Makemytrip. Let's say if I open this site, makemytrip.com, if I open, this is the very first thing which you'll get. This is the GUI of that website. Am I right? From Chandigarh to, let's say if it is to Delhi, I want to travel on this date. Okay, fine. I just fill up the things which is required, which are the text boxes. I just filled on which date I want to go, one passenger, which kind of class. Then I'm going to search button. When I press, all these, that website is going to return me all the services which are available. Am I right? It is giving me all the services which are available from that Chandigarh to that to Delhi. Right? It is giving me all list of all those vendors which provide that service. So what is this? What I did and what I'm getting back. What I did, let me explain you with this. So Makemytrip is something within which user just search for its requirement. Like I want to travel from Chandigarh to Delhi, on which date and how many passengers want to travel, like this. It just fill up the terms which are required, the text boxes, and this is something which is user. Okay, let me write here. This is my end user, like me. End user means from the browser side what I write. And what Makemytrip did? Makemytrip send my requirements to all the vendors which are available under makemytrip.com. Yeah. So Makemytrip send the requirements of the user to all the vendors which are available. Let's say if these are vendor 1, vendor 2, a list of vendors, maybe it have 100 vendors. Fine. So to all the vendors I just send my request. So these are my request. The same request, I'll not say that I'll send different requests, the same request I'll send, and what I get back from all the vendors, when I send my requirement, when I send the user's requirement, the vendors return the response. Maybe vendor 1 and vendor 3 send back the response. This is something which I am getting back from the two vendors only. And why two vendors? Because maybe this is the thing, these requirements which user have, only two vendors satisfy these requirements. From Chandigarh to Delhi, on which date, on which time, how many passengers want to travel, and in which class. So these are my requirements which user requires, and Make My Trip sends the request to all you, same request to all users, but only vendor 1 and vendor 3 send back the response because they do satisfy these requirements. Fine. So out of 100 vendors, only 2 vendors are sending me back the response. So what is working? The complete thing is what? This complete thing is surely the front end is the website. Front end is the website with which user interacts. But what is working behind the thing, behind the scene? This is important. Okay. So completely my website works on the web service, or I can say that web API. So for each and every website we have web API for that, we have web service for that, and we are going to test that web service. This is the thing which I just want to explain you. Now I hope the concept is clear about a web service. What is a web service and where it is present, how it is related to my website. The front end. So website is nothing but the front end, and web service is nothing but the back end, the on which website works. So what I can say, that website is something which works on the web service, which works on the web API. So we are going to test the web service. We all are here to learn about web services testing and web API testing. Now understand these two terms. The concept is clear. Ashok, any, Maha? Let me know if you have any doubt on that, because if you are not able to understand the concept of web service, then it is very difficult for you to understand the rest of the things. We are done with these three topics. Okay, this is the example of a web service. Make My Trip vendors, all the vendors are present, and we are going to send the request. User is going to send the request to all the vendors, and response will come out of those vendors which like satisfy those requirements of the user. And the important thing is, only few of the vendors are going to send back the response which satisfy the conditions of the user. Okay, and on the back end of my website, only the concept is of web service. But the web service is something which we are going to test, and web API is something which we are going to test, and on the web service only website works. Fine. So now let's work on these API and GUI. What is API? What is GUI? I'm saying GUI is a website with which user interacts, with which end user is going to interact. And API or a web service is something, it's something on which GUI works. Fine. And we are here for this one. So GUI with which user interacts, and API with which don't have, maybe it have UI, maybe it won't have GUI, but we are going to test it. And to test this one, we need to know about REST, we need to know about SOAP to reach API. We can't reach API directly. User can't reach API directly. We need some protocols, we need some standards, we need some important architecture to reach API, and all these things will cover in our course. Okay. Now the next thing is, what all are the jargons present in a web service? When I start discussing about the